So funny thing happened on the way to the office this morning, which is we tried to do this earlier and it said LinkedIn rejected our live broadcast. Maybe
Being rejected by LinkedIn, how humiliating is that?
Do you think it was because you were singing?
No.
So in the broadcast that nobody will ever see, Mike pretended to be Mick Jagger. Mike, let's move on. How was your long weekend?
Great. I really was enjoying the sunny weather, and as we enjoyed the sunny weather, reading about things like population movement because of climate change and how attractive it's looking here because we have what's it called, water, but probably not for long.
Yeah, well, not for long indeed. I'm just making sure that this is actually working, and I have good news. Apparently, this is actually working. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hope that nobody figures out that the weather is beautiful here.
It rains here every day. Tell all your friends it rains here every day.
I mean, maybe we'll all end up moving to the Arctic Circle, right?
Well, that's what the Russians are. Russians come up again. That's what the Russians are doing. The Arctic is going to be ice-free and navigable year-round, and competition for dominance there has already started. The Scandinavian countries are laying claim to the shipping lanes. Canadians, obviously, it's going to get real animated up there. But apart from that being prime real estate, I'm worried about what's going to happen here. Those fires in California are going to move north. And as we dry out, those fires are going to be awful up here. We are nothing but trees. I don't think it's going to be long before we experience what California's going through.
I thought you were an oceanographer.
I am. I was. Well, I learned that. My education is all in earth science, mainly geochemistry and ocean physics. So, just from a kind of interest perspective, I track developments in climate change. But let's get back to Memorial Day, because it actually has relevance to today's news discussion. You know what Americans do on Memorial Day?
They barbecue and they drive.
Exactly. So if you wanted to poke the American infrastructure, economy, social fabric in a way that directly affected people, what would you go after?
I see where you're going here. I fell into your trap.
Yeah.
I guess you'd go after gas and burgers.
Yeah, exactly.
And whatever is in hot dogs, right? So wait a minute. Are you linking the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack with this new meatpacking JBS attack to say that the Russians were going after Americans on the holiday weekend?
Yep.
Like, isn't that a stretch, Mike? I mean, this was about extortion, wasn't it? Both of those were ransomware attacks.
Well, ostensibly, this is true, right? I mean, on the surface of it, that was the story for publication. I don't think it matters anymore that a patina of crime is layered on top of what are essentially nation-state acts. It's become clear and is being openly discussed at the top of the federal government. There's some smackback coming, right? June 16th or June 18th, I think it's June 18th, President Biden is going to meet with Mr. Putin, and this is on the agenda.
Well, that'll fix everything. Well, no, I mean, but seriously, so there are two kinds of attacks. There is the SolarWinds type of attack, which is clearly espionage.
Started that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's clearly what that is about.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, there's ransomware, where that is about. I mean, sure, it's extraction of data, but that's about extortion, and that affects real people's lives. Not that SolarWinds didn't affect lives, but didn't shut down a pipeline. It didn't stop the burgers. It doesn't stop healthcare from happening. Like, if when Biden talks to Putin, this is part of the Washington Post this morning. Trying to get Putin to say, no, we're not going to espionage anymore. I mean,
right,
the U.S. that's not going to happen. The U.S. wants to be able to espionage too.
And
so But trying to get Putin to say, okay, you know what, we'll stop with the ransomware is more likely, right?
But yeah, I don't think that's the way to go about it, right? And I'm not, a diplomat, but given that there is just going to be denial, we do not cooperate with those operators. We don't trade tools. We don't provide them intelligence. We're not aware of what they're doing until it hits the news. We know when you know. That's all steer manure. Okay. If our administration is smart, meaning if they listen to me, here's what they'll do. They will not go at the national level to Russia and say, we want you to curtail this, okay? Because that's going to be denial. We didn't have anything to do with it, blah, 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 and everything will continue. If instead we just go inform old Vlad that here's what we're going to do. We're going to start treating these ransomware operators somewhere between criminals and terrorists. We are going to impose costs on them personally and directly, because that's what's going to change the behavior. It's not a national edict coming from Vladimir Putin to say, okay, ransomware operators, you got to stop this stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to scare the living crap out of these people, and they're going to move on to another country, to go extort preferentially. I think that's what's going to happen.
I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I think that this is all, and maybe I'm watching the Apple TV show For All Mankind, which is about the space race actually happening and, Russia getting to the moon first, or the USSR getting to the moon first. And I just don't buy it. Like, I don't buy that, Putin is controlling all of this. I think he knows. And I think he has his finger on it. And
but you're not going to get him to be honest about that fact, right? So why even waste your time? Just tell him, look, we're going to identify these operators. They're going to get disappeared. And within that community, the narrative is going to build, don't mess with the United States or you end up in Gitmo, right? And that is what's going to change behavior. Go into Putin and go on, you got to do something about this. That's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome.
Well, I mean, that's what's happened so far with sanctions, right? I mean, we can sanction and sanction and sanction.
And there's really nothing left to sanction. I mean, that's another part of it.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, but Russia doesn't care about the sanctions. I mean, or they haven't reacted in any way that's changed any behavior. So I think the Biden administration has to definitely do something more than sanctions. But I don't know. I think the separation of ransomware from the espionage thing is a really important distinction. And the idea that, that Biden comes in talking about SolarWinds, I just don't think it's going to go anywhere.
Well, maybe not. We'll see, right? I mean, I think if it's a conversation with a clear message about how we're going to treat ransomware operators going forward, and then we follow through, it's the operators that will be, shall we say, given pause. Yeah. Putin is almost irrelevant in this if we can impose cost in the right place, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, one of the things that happens in these White House conversations is sometimes they invite a pool reporter, and it's a reporter from the AP or the Washington Post or New York Times, and they write a transcript. They write a transcript, and then everybody has the transcript of what happens. I'm sure there will be a transcript of that conversation with Putin, right?
Probably not. No, probably not. No, I think this is going to be a classified conversation.
I don't think there's a pool reporter for that one. No. All right, Mike, what else this week?
More on insurance and how the industry keeps trying to figure out how to do this cyber insurance thing right without losing their shirts. The latest data are from 2020, and the data say that cyber liability premiums grew by double digits in 2020. Okay, they're going to do it again because the industry-wide loss ratio grew at a really rapid pace by something like more than 25% in 2020. And I think that the loss ratio that they're reporting for this particular line of business is 73%. So, this stuff has got to change here.
Yeah, trust the insurance companies. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, there's a global scourge of extortion going on, and that means impacts go up. I mean, aren't insurance companies just getting more serious about knowing your security controls before they'll provide coverage? It's like saying, the insurance will be less if you drive a Volvo, right?
or wear your seatbelts or, whatever. See, that's the other side of it. Yes, the threat has grown, but the prevention, detection, response controls haven't kept pace, right? So insurance companies are starting to use their own control frameworks and questionnaires to see if you're even fit to cover. And if you're too risky, you don't get coverage.
Yeah,
or your premiums are going to be sky high, right?
Ooh, I like this car metaphor. Like, like most companies are driving around right now like 16-year-olds in a Corvette.
Exactly. Oh, that's such a great analogy. Can I use that? Do I have to?
You have to, every time you say it, you have to hold up finger and say footnote Jake, and then you can use it. Okay. All right. Let's move on from insurance. We've talked about that every week, and I mean, hell, we'll continue to. But what about that espionage attack against the federal government? We didn't talk about that. We're talking
back to espionage.
Yeah. What's up with the domains that have been seen with the domains that have been seized by the government? What's the backstory there?
This whole seizing domains thing, tried and true. We do this all the time. Microsoft pioneered. If there are hard-coded domains and malware that are used for command and control, Microsoft goes to a judge and has control of those domains given to Microsoft. Okay, so now they're owned by Redmond, and when a computer beacons out and makes contact with computers that Microsoft now has monitoring for contact, we know that computer is compromised. And there's no more actual command and control of the compromised system, right? So that is a good way to knock down one of these operations temporarily. It'll be back.
How did we get there?
So the same group responsible for the SolarWinds event is thought to be behind this one. Essentially, they tricked someone at USAID, which is an international development agency, into giving up a password. And this is what I think. They don't say exactly how they got into USAID, or at least I didn't read that, but I'm betting somebody just gave up a password. They walked into the network. And then they took over somebody's email account internally and used that to email a booby-trapped document to lots of people in federal agencies. And since it came from a trusted source, they opened it and installed a backdoor giving Russians access to U.S. government computers in a whole bunch of agencies. And I can't remember how many. So that's how we got there.
And it was a booby trap PDF, right? Was it a PDF? Yeah. And I mean, I know any document can be booby trapped but from my marketing world and sending emails to people, like that's pain in the ass because we we send PDFs to potential customers. So and I assume that Biden will talk about that with Putin.
And I assume you're right.
Yeah, or maybe not. All right, what do you have? What else do you have, Mike?
Industrial control systems, SCADA, operational technology, whatever you want to call it. Remember the water utilities that have had incidents?
Yeah, the one in the Tampa area right around the Super Bowl, and then there was the other one in Kansas, right?
Yeah, those are the two recent ones, right? So here are a couple of articles that I'll describe back to back. First, a piece came out about how there are tutorials that show how to use Shodan and how to use it to find water utilities and expose technologies like the HMI, the human machine interface. Now that's going to bring in the, pretty much unsophisticated actors, to twiddle around with that interface and go, oh, let's up the amount of, sodium hydroxide, whatever. But just announced yesterday, there is a vulnerability in a Siemens PLC, a programmable logic controller, and that will get it to hide and run code. So in the PLC, right? So this is being described as the holy grail for infrastructure attacks, and it's not just the water sector that uses them. But we know personally, the company, that a lot of water utilities use them. And we're in the process right now of making sure all of our customers and frankly other water sector in the state knows about this vulnerability and get after the updates and patches that they are going to need to apply.
See, and there you go, taking us back to water.
Hey, I'm an oceanographer.
Hey, two things. Number one, somebody corrected us in the chat here and said the PDF itself was benign. There was a link. There was a link file that launched a Cobalt strike generated DLL. Yeah, that's right.
It's
So,
interesting that the bad
I can-
guys use commercial tools. It just cracks me up. You just go
do,
buy the kit now that does all this for you, and that's what they use.
do you think they pay the annual fee?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Do you think they use crypto to pay it? Whatever. So, and one other thing is, I got to tell you, this thing is going on in the background, which is our head of events, Jenny, who does all of our events, sent out an email this morning to people who've been on our been to our site, and it was an invite to a webinar that you're doing with Jennifer Clark, and it's about people coming back to the office and the cyber concerns. And my email is just filling up with people registering. We're over 50 people who have registered right now. If folks want to join, I put the link.
Still a week out too.
I know. It's going to be a popular one.
I should probably prep some content for that, shouldn't I?
We should figure out what we're going to talk about now that people are interested.
I know what I'm.
That's not how it works. All right. So at the end of all of these, Mike, we have a kicker, and the kicker is the heartwarming story at the end. Where you leave everybody with a smile. What do you got, Mike?
So after many weeks of doing this, I've decided on a different definition for kicker. It doesn't have to be heartwarming because not a lot of things in our line of business are heartwarming. It can be an ironic story of how weird technology is becoming and how it's merging more and more with our lives in ways we didn't anticipate. So here's the thing. There are sex robots. And they're a little primitive right now, but we all see where technology is going and what this is going to look like. And a warning was issued, I think somewhat tongue-in-cheek, that with the advances in this type of technology, it's going to be possible to compromise your robot and add code that will kill you. In the near future, we have to be worried about being murdered by sex robots.
Define we.
Okay. We globally writ large. I don't know.
Well, Mike, okay. Put a smile on my face. That was pretty good. That was good. That was good. That was the best ending to one of these you've ever had.
Okay.
Well done.
All right. I'll try to replicate that next week.
And I have so many jokes that have popped into my head about that I just can't use. Yep.
Not here.
No. Yeah, no, can't say that one. Nope, can't say that one. Oh, I can't say this one. I guess that's not a happy ending. Okay.
Oh.
All right.
That actually was reasonably funny, but only.
All right, everybody. We're
going to get banned.
Don't buy a sex robot because for several reasons, but apparently number one is that you can get hacked and kill you, and second, make sure to join that webinar next week. And we're gonna have an announcement next week too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, we are. All right, everybody. We'll see you later. If you need anything, shoot us an email and have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye.